Happy Wednesday. It's that time of the year where everyone starts getting sick. So please disregard my voice and my cold as we um trek on through it. So I have seen a huge uptick in things that are a little bit concerning. So we're going to touch on those this week. As a lot of you know, especially if you do work at all in the real estate industry or if you've just been watching it, that obviously the last few years we boomed. Interest rates were crazy low in response to COVID. A lot of people got into the field that weren't in it before because it just looked so easy. There was so much business. Those of us who were in it and doing well were making a ton of money. Definitely had one of the best years of my career. And it just looked way easier than it was and way easier than it normally is, right? So with this influx of people coming into the business, there was a lot happening where people weren't really good at it or they're trying to take shortcuts. And now what we're starting to see is those people getting out, which is great because those of us who know what we're doing, are in it for the long haul, have withstood that. So I would say overall, you're probably more likely to have a better chance of good representation because you don't have people that are in it for a hobby or just because it looks really easy and they're trying to line their pockets, right? But with that, we see a little bit of sketchy stuff on the other side because those people who got in it for that are trying to continue or I guess repeat those same results, which is quite honestly unrealistic. I work very hard and I don't anticipate doing the number of transactions consistently that I have in the past because it's just a different market. It doesn't work the same. And you have to be able to adapt to that. But with that, we are seeing more and more scams, especially as rental rates are still crazy. Everyone's looking for just an affordable way to live, right? And so please be careful. There are so many scams on rentals and even some on sales where they will take your money, period. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Now we are in that weird dip of changes where in a lot of cases it is still cheaper to rent than buy right now. Real estate tends to trend on a 2 to 3 year phase with that. So when home prices go up significantly, it takes a little bit of time for the rent prices to raise along with it. And the reason for that is because guess what? You legally have to honor leases. So whatever that rental is locked into, that's what they're in. And some landlords, they want to keep, especially if you're looking at apartments, they want to keep the people they have if they can, because if they've been there long term, they know they're a good tenant, they're going to pay. So they're going to do incremental increases. So if you've seen your rental go up $100, $200, $300 from last year, I'd expect that to trend another year or two at least, because we are in a space right now where rentals are cheaper than mortgages, and that's just not sustainable. Anyone who owns a rental owns it to make money. Even people who've owned it for a while are out there to make profit. So if they can make more money, they probably will. So keep that in mind. But if you see something too good to be true, I'm always happy to check it out. I don't care if it's a rental you found on Facebook Marketplace or it's a friend of a friend of a friend. Or they found it on Craigslist, if that's even a thing. I don't know. Wherever you found your great deal that looks sketchy or maybe a miracle, please run it by me. I don't care if I get paid or not to help you. I want to make sure people are not stealing your money. Okay. So first thing to watch out for is scams. If you're in a real estate transaction, this has also gone to wire fraud, and it is so prevalent that over the last few years, the state of Tennessee specifically has really pushed that we need to make sure you're aware of wire fraud. So in a Tennessee contract, you actually sign off on this 3 times just going under contract. You initial on your purchase and sale agreement that you know that wire fraud exists. And then there's a whole separate document on wire fraud where you initial and sign stating that you understand that it exists and that you are going to get your instructions straight from the title company. Now, with that, do not call the number on the email from the title company that has your wire instructions. Because if it is a scam, guess what? They're not going to give you the actual title company's number. That would be stupid. They're going to give you some BS number that runs you to them so they can be like, oh, yeah, it's totally legit. Send us your money. Don't. If you don't have the title company's number, ask me. I will send you the actual one and you can call them and verify that what you got is correct before you send your money. Now, along with the scams and with people getting in and out of the business, we say wholesalers. So I don't know if you are familiar with wholesaling or not. A lot of agents really, really hate them. I don't. I understand there's a place, but I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it, right? So wholesaling, well, I'll back up a little bit. Something that is illegal would be illegal for me to do is called a net listing. So if I go to someone and they want to sell their house and they say, hey, Kelly, I just really need to make, I have, I don't know, $150,000 on my house still. I know it's worth way more than that. I've been here forever. But, I need money fast. And if I can make 200, I don't really care what it sells for after that. If you give me my 200, you can have everything on top of that. That is not legal. That's called a net listing. That would be illegal for me to do because it's not operating in the best interest of that seller. A loophole with that is if you are unlicensed, people try to do wholesaling. And so the way that it works is they're essentially realistically doing 2 illegal things in a way that makes it not illegal, which you can understand why that irritates people, right? So they're operating without a real estate license, and then they're doing a net listing, essentially. So what happens is they come and they say, hey, I'm an investor or a cash buyer. I want to buy your property and do it off market. We can just close with attorneys at the title company. We don't need realtors. Totally fine. We'll save you money. And of course, if you don't know any better, you're like, that sounds great. Let's do it. Cool. Especially, title companies, attorneys, it sounds legit, right? So then they go under contract. Now, unless it's stated otherwise, most contracts are assignable. The reason that was done is because there are many weird changes that can happen in terms of a contract, and you don't want to constantly have to redo the contract. So for instance, if an investor is buying a property and they go under contract in their name, they can close with their LLC or vice versa. As long as it's all the same ownership, it can be assigned. Now the loophole with that is this wholesaler is going to come in and they're going to be the buyer, but then they market the property. Technically, they're not marketing the property, so it's not illegal because they're marketing their interest in the property. They're saying, hey, investor friends, I have a contract on this property. I'll assign it to you for X. And then they're say they are under contract for 200,000, then they're marketing it as being, selling for 250. And then they're going to pocket that 50,000. Now, if they're really good at what they do, it works out. Everyone's fine. Huge risk. But ultimately, if that's what that seller wants and it can get done, no harm. Most of the time, this is on properties where they're falling apart and really it needs an investor to come in and buy it. And that's the only way it's going to work. So them having a great network of investors on hand where they're just texting these off-market deals and they can get it done, it's not always a bad thing. But this influx of new people coming in brought not only more agents, but it brought a ton of people thinking they can wholesale when they have no idea what they're doing. So then what that does is that ties up that property because they're a buyer and they're under contract. So that house, no one else can come buy it, right? Which if it's off market, it's annoying, not necessarily the end of the world, unless it's someone who really, really needs to sell quickly, which honestly, if you're taking a wholesaler, then you usually need to sell pretty quickly and get that money. So if you're in that position, we work with everything. Give me a call. We'll help you. But what this has led to is people not knowing what they're doing, and they don't have that network of investors, and they don't know where to find these off-market deals because guess what? No one's trained. And so they are going everywhere. And this is honestly a huge, huge warning to other realtors as well, because I have a property that would be a great starter home. I really hate getting calls this late. But there's been a ton of interest on it. People are leaving little notes on the door. They're calling me, leaving voicemails. They're sending emails. And now legally, I do have to present all offers, but in Tennessee, if it's not in writing, it's not signed, it's not an offer. So if you call me and say, hey, I want to put an assignable contract on this, I can go ahead and tell you, probably not going to happen, but go ahead and send it in writing and we'll see what the seller said, right? So then 9 times out of 10, I just don't get anything in writing and I pretend it doesn't exist. Because they're all like less than half of the list price, want it to be assignable. And it's just sketchy, right? So I've gotten one that came in writing and we went over that and I explained, hey, this language makes me think it's a wholesaler. We can definitely go through with it if you want. We can do a right of refusal. There's a lot of different things we can do to make it work. That seller decided they didn't want to take that risk. But please, please, please be aware of this. If someone, whether you're an agent and you have a listed property, because they're coming after those too, I don't think they're very good at their job if they're doing that because they're not going to make the profit they're looking for. But they're coming after your listings. They're coming after your personal homes if you are a home owner or property owner. So if someone calls, texts, emails, whatever, knocks on your door, leaves a note and says, I'm a cash buyer in your area, I'm a real estate investor, those are major red flags. Guess what? People who buy in cash aren't going to be like, hey, I got a ton of cash, I want to buy your house. They're just going to say, hey, how much are you asking for it? Let me see if we can make a deal work. And then you'll get a written offer for cash that shows proof of funds that they have the cash to purchase the property. If they say, hey, I'm a real estate investor, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, I have friends who are real estate investors and they actually are and they own properties and they train other people on how to do that. And so they go by the term real estate investor. But even those people, if they're going to purchase property, they're saying, hey, I'm interested in your property. They're not calling saying, hey, I'm a real estate investor in your area. Cash buyer, real estate investor, 9 times out of 10 is going to be actually a wholesaler. So please watch out for this. I'm going to cut this short because I need to go fix that. If you don't hear it, baby's crying. But just please be cautious of this. The market's tightening up. People are looking for new ways of doing business, trying to keep themselves afloat, and they aren't always smart with it. And a lot of times it is going to impact you negatively. So as always, if you have a question, I'm happy to vet it. Even if I gain nothing from it, I just want to make sure that it's something that does look legit and you're not getting in a situation where you're going to hold your property off the market for someone and then it not sell or lose money or whatever the case may be. But I love you all. I'll talk to you next week. I will talk to you next week. It may be really hectic with Thanksgiving being right after, but see you next week.